Welcome everybody to the week 7 iteration of Nerding Out with Nic Bodiford. I am your host, Nic Bodiford. The date is October 21st, 2022. We are on the Friday of week 7. We just watched Kyler Murray tear into Cliff Kingsbury on national television. Couple of house cleaning things that I want to cover before we get into just the general state of the NFL, going team by team as we do. For those watching last night, I do think that it's unfortunate to say it like this, but the best move for the Cliff Kingsbury offense is for Cliff Kingsbury to not be there anymore. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's a really bad play caller. And I think that he's just the product of having been taught the air raid scheme. You know, he despite coming from this, like, the Mike Leach school, because I don't know if they're part of the same coaching tree, probably, but he lucks into wanting to distribute the ball. He doesn't understand the benefits to passing on first half early downs, and even when you're winning and all that. He just was taught a way of approaching the game that happens to be somewhat progressive. So anyway, they gave him and Steve Keim big extensions this offseason, or I think maybe it was like ahead of week 1. I think that they'll fire him, and I think they need to. Kyler Murray is an elite NFL quarterback, or at least he is. He's an elite NFL quarterback. He might be closer to the above average guys than he is Josh Allen, but I think that he is in the tier of quarterbacks who single-handedly keeps your Super Bowl window alive. And you can't, under no circumstances can you be permitted to lose a guy like that. So that's the main takeaway from the Arizona side of things. I've talked about it previously, but Keontae Ingram is good, and you all need to have him rostered. Backup running back for Arizona Cardinals. Keontae Ingram needs to be on 12-team rosters. Rondale Moore, I think you still have a buy low window with him. You know what you're doing with the rest of the people. If you can sell, I don't think you can sell DeAndre Hopkins after what he did there. But if you can get someone to pay wide receiver 1 trade value for him, then I would do that. But I do think he's just going to get loaded up with targets. I mean, he's probably getting 10 a game from here on out. Like I expect him to be top 12 in targets per game for the rest of the year, or at least until Marquise Brown comes back. What he can do with them, we'll see. He's a year older, blah blah blah. You get it. In terms of the New Orleans Saints, Chris Olave was my rookie wide receiver 1. I didn't have him as a fantasy wide receiver 1, but he was the number 1 guy for fantasy purposes this year of the 2022 rookie class. That's looking very good right now. He is earning targets at an outrageous rate. And for those not familiar with things like yards per route run and targets per route run, those efficiency metrics tell us what a guy is doing on a per play basis. And someone said this last week. I think it was Ian Hartitz. Football is a small sample size sport. When we parse things down to a per route basis, we are giving ourselves the largest possible sample size to draw from a per play perspective. Chris Olave, I can't go into numbers because we don't have those kind of databases here at NerdBall, but you can find this stuff for free on, like on Twitter. I think it might have been Levitan that was recently pumping this, and I can probably find it, but the point is Chris Olave's ability to earn targets is already at an elite NFL level, and targets are earned. Running back carries are not. And think about it from, when a starting running back goes down or misses time, generally there's a reason we're all excited about the number 2, and it's because you just get touches when you are a team starting running back. Here we go. Yeah, Levitan. He was tweeting about Chris Olave. 14 targets for Chris Olave last night. He's now 53 in targets on 168 routes he's run in the last 5 games. 31.5% targets per route run rate, alpha. That's what Adam Levitan tweeted at Adam Levitan. For reference, being over 25 is excellent. Like, I'm being over 23 is excellent. 31 is outrageous. So Chris Olave, he's already doing it. He's already a fantasy wide receiver one. And I think that if you can buy, I would bet his market trade value right now, even if you feel like you're buying high, you're probably not. So I would target Chris Olave and I would just start him every week, and I wouldn't sweat it even when Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry come back. And they're like, I mean, they might be a long ways out still. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is. And this is why we like wide receivers. Good ones just win no matter what the circumstances. And they could be elevated by excellent quarterback play. But yeah, anyway, Chris Olave, he's a beast. And in dynasty or deep leagues, this Rashid Shaheed guy, he's worth looking at. Final note here on this team: if you do not have an elite tight end, you should just be starting Taysom Hill. And I've touched on this sort of as a, hey, you guys should consider this, but this is, I think this kind of data at this point is undeniable. And look, when Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry come back, we can revisit this conversation, and maybe it will be inappropriate to start Taysom Hill as a tight end one. But at this point, tight ends, if you don't have an elite one, you can play certain matchups, like always start your tight ends against Seattle. Starting them against Arizona and New Orleans is also a pretty good idea. But Taysom Hill's usage is just positionless, and it's constant. Again, we can revisit this if and when Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry comes back. But like, if it's just Jarvis Landry that comes back initially, you should still be starting Taysom Hill. If Michael Thomas comes back next week, if both of them come back next week, I'll probably still be ranking Taysom Hill in the top 12, but maybe he sits like at number 12. It's just like, what this guy, he just brings something that you literally can't find at any position, but with what you normally get to fail with at the tight end position, you can fail with that. Last week, Taysom Hill had like 5.4 points. That's a totally normal, moderate tight end one finish. What isn't is when he throws a touchdown and adds yards on the ground. And here I'm gonna just, well, you all can go look up what he's done. It's just Taysom Hill. Like, we need to stop being afraid of his floor, because his ceiling is just totally unique. Okay. As for Christian McCaffrey's been traded to the San Francisco 49ers. I think San Francisco and Seattle are the funniest teams in the NFL, because neither Pete Carroll nor Cliff Kingsbury can run a team. They do things that are totally shooting themselves in the foot. And if you want to have the Russell Wilson conversation, I'm here to have it with you. But these two guys would be at their apex if Kyle Shanahan's calling offensive plays as the coordinator, and Pete Carroll is on the same team as the defensive coordinator. And then you just get someone who is able to quell those personalities and be the true leader at head coach. That's what I would do. That's the dream scenario. Good luck getting those guys to take those jobs. But Kyle Shanahan cannot stop using day two picks on running backs and wide receivers that he immediately hates. Dante Pettis, Joe Williams, Trey Sermon, Tyrion Davis-Price. It is so crazy. This is the guy. This is his dad, Mike Shanahan, was the one who gave credence to the idea that, quote, running backs don't matter. Meaning, if you design your scheme well, you can find undrafted free agent rushers. You can find 6th round rushers that can execute via scheme and via their own talent. But the whole concept with this backfield is that you don't need elite rushers to produce one of the best run games in the NFL. Running back production is a product of scheme. It is a product of your ability to pass the football. So what they did is stupid. They shouldn't have traded for Christian McCaffrey. They already were down a first round pick. They gave up their 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. They don't pick until the 5th round. That's dumb. But Will it make for some really fun stuff with Christian McCaffrey on Sundays? Yeah, totally. Over the years, the San Francisco 49ers have been one of the teams that throws to their running back position at a pretty high rate. You wouldn't know it because all those targets are going to Kyle Juszczyk, but they're going to be able to incorporate things that they do with Juszczyk for McCaffrey, and they're going to be able to incorporate Deebo Samuel principles into Christian McCaffrey's workload. And we'll either see a really boring, voluminous, productive, run-centric workload for him, or we will see like a team that basically has two Deebos, and that would be really cool. So what is Christian McCaffrey? I think based on his workload, he was probably already the RB1. He certainly was for me when I'm entering the year. I think as things played out, was there a reason to think that he didn't deserve the overall top spot? Yeah. And I wouldn't blame anyone for having opted for a different RB1. But now I think that it's McCaffrey undeniably, and my underdog teams are pumped because he should have been going 101, not 102 or 103. All right. That's it for that. Yeah, I'll cite some of the work that I've done this week as we go here, and I'll tell you where to find them at the end of the show. First things first on the Week 7 slate. Detroit Lions at Dallas Cowboys. Interesting thing with Detroit, just from a team perspective, I think that this team can get better on offense. They've already been pretty good. The offensive line suffered a total of 3 injuries to their starters in the first 3 weeks of the season. Frank Ragnow's been playing through injury. This Week 6 bye comes at a very good time for them, and I think that moving forward, they should only be getting better and better. Amon-Ra St. Brown is coming back. He's healthier with the ankle. DeAndre Swift's shoulder is improving. I'm waiting to find out if my dog is going to make a guest appearance on this show as he protects the home from squirrels. But so if that happens, apologies, and I'll handle it. Yeah, Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's going to smash this week. He's playing against Jordan Lewis. Nobody should be afraid of Jordan Lewis. Dallas as a whole, they do a good job of limiting deep pass plays, but or long pass plays rather. But St. Brown, I mean, he crushes in the short to intermediate area. He's good after the catch. He's a fantasy wide receiver 1. I think I've got him. I can just look here. Yeah, he's my wide receiver 3 on the week. Hawkinson, you can just start him every week. Don't overthink that one. He's a guy who I would feel comfortable starting over Taysom Hill in all but the shortest of or smallest of circumstances. Josh Reynolds, he's been very good. He probably has earned that wide receiver 2 role, and I think in 16 team leagues he's fine. Dynasty leagues, maybe. DeAndre Swift, I think, has. I was too low on him in the draft. Okay, so the DeAndre Swift, he has the Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara playing style profile. Jamal Williams is always going to be a factor. Swift has kind of struggled as a rusher last year. He's been excellent this year, so he's improved. There were reasons to rank him lower than elite RB1 because of his potential range of outcomes. And I think that was an appropriate way to approach it. Now, with what we've seen, I think that Swift is deservedly going to be a top 5 ranked running back for much of the season moving forward. Now, if his shoulder injury, if they've been BSing us and his shoulder injury is an issue moving forward, then, all bets are off. But keep Jamal Williams rostered, but I like Swift a lot this week against the Dallas front 7. Jared Goff, he's a fine plug and play quarterback. Maybe 1. He has some paths to failure, but he's pretty darn sturdy dealing with the dog. So on the Dallas side of things, well, so the Cowboys are getting Dak back, and that's excellent. Yeah, Dak, I think this is a great time for him to return. Detroit has the worst defense in the NFL, and I think that you can start him, and I wouldn't have any concerns about him moving forward. The offensive line is what it is. CeeDee Lamb has been earning targets at an elite rate. He's probably still a buy low because his his like player profile potential is like Stephon Diggs. They don't have the same quality of offense, but what CeeDee Lamb is a player. He is doing the elite wide receiver one things that we want him to do. It's just not quite showing up in the box score, and that is a situation where you just have to go with the process. As far as the other wide receivers, Noah Brown is holding his own, and Michael Gallup, he's still really easing into things. I think that they're both fine bench plays or bench holds in 12-team formats, but this is a really good matchup for them. And if you're holding them on your bench, it's probably the time to flex them. I would be ignoring the tight ends. Ryan Reynolds and I went on Brian Drake's Sirius XM radio show last week, and we had 2 DFS lineups that we came up with and we were going to present. We had one we were thinking about presenting, and it had that guy Hendershot in it, and then we opted for the other one. And that Hendershot, he scored, and Ryan was talking about no-name tight ends that score in island games on, I think it was Monday night. Anyway, that was great. We should have gone with that one, but process over results. The one we submitted was still great. Shout out to Devontae Smith. In terms of the backfield here, this is a pretty good one for Ezekiel Elliott, and I would try to sell high season long on this one because the Lions are really bad, and it could make Ezekiel Elliott look good. I do think that Dak's return season long will help Ezekiel Elliott. Tony Pollard, you either just bench stash him or you hold him or try to sell him to a Pollard enthusiast, but his upside is pretty outstanding if Ezekiel Elliott sits. The problem with Zeke is he just kind of plays through everything, though. Like, he played all last year on a torn PCL. So just tough backfield situation. All right. So moving on to Green Bay Packers at Washington Commanders. Again, a focus of the show is more so the season-long aspect, what you should be doing with players. I'm going to keep touching on the matchups. Like for this week, I really do like the secondary matchup that the Green Bay Packers have here. And I wrote up Romeo Doubs on Pro Football Focus as a wide receiver cornerback matchup to target against Kendall Fuller. The way that they're using Lazard and Doubs has been interesting. Doubs has more been the short to intermediate area guy, and Lazard has more so been like a slot field stretcher. He's not lining up in the slot on a majority of snaps, but it's a pretty high rate. The Washington secondary features players, prolific players such as Kendall Fuller, Benjamin St. Juice, who I always call Buster because I think of Arrested Development, and a guy named Rashad Wildgoose. How fun is that? Wildgoose has, I think, 80 some snaps to his name in his career. He's a 2-year guy. He was with the New York Jets last year. He's played pretty well in his limited snaps, but I think that Rodgers is going to test the heck out of this guy. And I don't think that Washington is going to hope that they can get Wildgoose covering Lazard and Doubs. But if and when either one of those guys are there, I think that Rodgers is really going to pick on him. Long term, there are trade rumors that the Green Bay Packers want to go get Chase Claypool. That would be fine. The hope is that he would take over as a big slot. And that would just be kind of a toss-up as to how the pass catching core would shake out. I don't know. I don't want to say that it would be good or bad. I mean, he probably command targets, and he is. And we called this, actually, we made note of this the other week. Pat Kerrane, friend of the show, Pat Kerrane, he called out the fact that Chase Claypool ahead of last week was still earning targets in the Steelers offense. And then boom, Kenny Pickett gets concussed. Mitch Trubisky goes in there and Claypool pops off. Claypool, I think that he is a fine NFL receiver. You guys know I was really high on him. I think that he's all right in Dynasty. I think Clark and I accepting giving up a first-round pick for him was just terrible process in hindsight. Anywho, I like the passing game matchup here, and I still like these guys moving forward. And I think that offensive line hopefully can only go up. They were without Elgton Jenkins in week 1. Both he and Bakhtiari dealt with knee injuries. Elgton Jenkins also had like a pec or a elbow injury or something. I think it was a pec. But anyway, that line is just, I think it's on the way to getting healthier, and I like their season-long prospects. Now, Robert Tonyan, I think he is a toss-up between he and Taysom Hill. From now on, it's just going to be the Taysom Hill line. Do you start Taysom Hill, or do you bench Taysom Hill? I think that this one is a true toss-up, Robert Tonyan versus Taysom Hill, but I would feel comfortable. Actually, this week I think Tonyan has a good matchup, has a good tight end matchup. So what's his name? I can't think of the linebacker, but yeah. So this one, maybe you do go with Robert Tonyan, but I think that's a good tight end platoon. In terms of the backfield, the teams really aren't using their running backs as they should. All we can do is hope. If you could trade one of these guys at their peak value, then I would do it. Like absolutely, I would do it. There are two of them, and they are not getting a voluminous workload. There are some strange things going on with LaFleur and Rodgers from a play calling perspective, and I think that's still shaking out. I think this week that might be remedied against the Washington defense, and that'll give us a bit of an idea to expect moving forward. Because when you find success, the coach can enjoy that and want to keep using those guys. So I think that there is hope that Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon can kind of get right here. If they can't, that's not awesome. From the Washington side, we've got Taylor Heinicke, who can distribute the ball, and I think that Heinicke can return Terry McLaurin to wide receiver 2 relevance. I don't know if I would bank on it by trading wide receiver 2 value to acquire Terry McLaurin, but I think that Heinicke could do it. What happens after that? Don't know. Would love to see if Sam Howell can play football. We know that Carson Wentz just is Carson Wentz. So Jahan Dotson, he re-aggravated his hamstring in practice this week. So Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, they're going to do their things, and hopefully Heinicke gets McLaurin elevated, and we can start him as a wide receiver 2 moving forward. Curtis Samuel's gimmickiness, I think it can still be successful, but I think that I think Terry McLaurin is kind of taking. I think the guard can change, where Samuel was the leader initially, and I think McLaurin can kind of take over there. I'm fading those tight ends right now. In terms of the backfield, Brian Robinson is the early rusher. McKissick does his McKissick pass catching thing. Antonio Gibson can be dropped. If you want to bench stash him, that's fine, but you're not starting him anywhere. Excuse me. New York Giants at Jacksonville Jaguars. Brian Daboll, you guys know he's my favorite NFL coach, both as an offensive coordinator and as a head coach. I'm loving what he's doing. I hope he figures out the Kadarius Toney thing, because I still don't know for sure if it's a hamstring issue or if it's Kadarius Toney. But Toney seemed to have impressed reporters this week by owning some of his failings. And that's good, because this guy has been a little out of his mind, which is kind of good at the wide receiver position, but it seemed like that was translating to not showing up. So what to do with the Giants? Daniel Jones, you can start this week. Jacksonville Jaguars are likely to be without Shaq Griffin on the perimeter. Tyson Campbell is very good, but Daniel Jones, I think, is going to eat. I think he's going to run the ball quite frequently, and I think he's going to pass the ball well. Wan'Dale Robinson should be on 12-team rosters, and right now I myself am starting him over Courtland Sutton. If Russell Wilson's healthy, I might put Sutton back in there, because Sutton will be Russell Wilson's go-to. But the Jets cornerbacks continue to get better every week, and they're very good right now. So Wan'Dale Robinson should be on rosters. Dan Bellinger should be on rosters. He is going up against Devin Lloyd this week, and I wrote this up at Pro Football Focus, so you guys can go read that there. But I can't say more than that. I can't give you reasons why. Well, I can tell you that Dan Bellinger continues to participate more, and you can find this data anywhere. He continues to participate more and more on every week. Dan Bellinger's role increases. He is responding. I think he has one incomplete pass on the year. I think he's like 15 of 16 or something, or 17 of 18. He continues to prove that he's a trustworthy target. And And this week he gets to go up against a guy named Devin Lloyd, who's a really bad coverage linebacker, and it's why you should never draft coverage linebackers early. Dan Bellinger is a blow up tight end candidate, and I would absolutely start him I would start him aside from the elite guys. And you can have the debate on Taysom. I think process actually tells you should start Bellinger this week. Add Dan Bellinger. I'm still holding Kadarius Toney. You're doing your thing with Saquon Barkley. Jacksonville Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence is a pretty darn good quarterback, and we don't know what his ceiling is yet or his floor, but he's pretty good. The Giants have had a bunch of freak weird injury issues. And I think that Trevor Lawrence can just be started in fantasy. I think you can start him as a quarterback one. I don't think that I have him ranked there, but this game, oh no, excuse me. I have Lawrence ranked as the quarterback number 9, and I'm just going to look up the Vegas, the over-unders right here, because this over-unders are really a good way for us to try to get an idea of how high scoring a given game can be. And we like high scoring for fantasy purposes. So I'm looking at trying to get these to show up here. Okay. 43 points. It's moderate. It's not great. It's not bad. It's moderate. So Trevor Lawrence, he's a quarterback one this week. I think that you go back to Christian Kirk as a top 24 wide receiver at worst, but I think that he has wide receiver one potential here, and I would be holding him. The other wide receivers I don't think are necessary to be on rosters. I think Taysom Hill is a guy you start over Evan Ingram. Travis Etienne continues to rush better. He is explosive. He is shedding tacklers. He is getting more rushing work. He's drawn near even with James Robinson. Actually, he was even for 2 straight weeks, and then Robinson got 2 more carries than him. But I think that this is a guy that I wrote up at Pro Football Focus, and you can go read about that there. But it's an excellent situation for Travis Etienne. Tampa Bay Buccaneers at Carolina Panthers. It's a fire the cannons situation with the Bucs, and I think that moving forward, Ryan Jensen, the center, is supposed to be coming back. Tom Brady, I think he's a quarterback one this week. You start Evans and Chris Godwin. You start Cade Otton. I don't know that you have to start Russell Gage. Lenny is a running back one, and Rachaad White needs to be on rosters all over the damn place. He is probably fantasy football's premier running back stash. On the Carolina Panthers side, the only person we have to talk about here is DJ Moore. He'll get all of the defensive attention, but with Christian McCaffrey gone, with Robbie Anderson gone, with whoever the hell playing quarterback, DJ Moore is going to be the whole dang offense. So you can start him as a wide receiver 3, and he can give you wide receiver 1 upside. And that's just going to be the way things are from here on out, because his talent is such that he can do a lot with little, but I think he's going to get a lot. Atlanta Falcons at Cincinnati Bengals. This one's really, really nice. The Bengals, they've got some injuries in the front 7, and the Falcons are going to be able to take advantage of that. I like Tyler Algier a lot. I think he's a running back 2 this week. Caleb Huntley did outcarry him, but over the last 3 weeks when Cordero Patterson got hurt. Oh, Algier is another guy I wrote up at PFF. You can go check it out there. I think he's, yeah. I won't go figure it out. Tyler Algier should be on rosters. Cordell Patterson probably comes back and rocks the house, but I think that Algier is up there with Rachaad White. As far as this offense goes as a whole, we don't know what Algier can be. I mean, yeah, he's a start right now, and he's going to be a bench stash. Marcus Mariota continues to be a run-centric guy, and that's fine for fantasy purposes, and I think that he is a great bye-week fill-in. I don't think he's an every-week start. Drake London, Chidobe Awuzie is a pretty good cornerback, and I won't be surprised if this game is so run-centric that Drake London comes up with another dud. But, he's up there as one of those guys who's earned targets. Like, he's a freak. He's the guy who's challenging Olave for the number 1 wide receiver spot in this class. Kyle Pitts, just keep starting him, and no, you don't start Taysom Hill over him. Cincinnati Bengals. This is cool. So the from a season-long perspective, all concerns have been erased over Jamar Chase. I didn't have any, but I know people did. He's a fantasy wide receiver 1. T. Higgins is a fantasy wide receiver 1. Tyler Boyd is getting underused, and that just is what it is. He's probably a weekly wide receiver 4, but jumps up to the wide receiver 3 area with bye weeks. Hayden Hurst, I'd start Taysom Hill over him, but he is with Tanya in that he's in the conversation moving forward. Joe Mixon is a voluminous guy, and you can start him as a voluminous running back, but he's not a pass catching specialist here. I mean, that's what his talent is, but that's not how he's used. As far as this week goes, be excited about all of these guys. Casey Hayward is injured, might have landed on injured reserve, one of the perimeter cornerbacks. I think AJ Terrell is also banged up. So it'll be a good day here for Cincinnati. Cleveland Browns at Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore, season-long perspective. Jacoby Brissett, he can get it done here. Baltimore is one of the most passing game friendly defenses in the NFL. I think Brissett is a quarterback 2, and I think you can stream him as a quarterback 1. Mari Cooper, I'm not sure where I actually have him this week. I'm looking that up, but his target earning ability has just surpassed all expectations. I have him as the wide receiver 17, and actually, I will be adjusting that with Tyler Lockett's hamstring injury. I don't know how high I will move Amari Cooper up, but he is a mid to high wide receiver 2 pretty confidently. Donovan Peoples-Jones is fine bench stash, as is David Bell. David Njoku is a guy you start over Taysom Hill most weeks. This week, the safeties in Baltimore are supposed to be great, but there's some stuff going on, meaning they haven't played well. As far as the running backs go, I encouraged people to sell high on Nick Chubb. I think that you will continue to get opportunities to do so, but we're entering the part of the season where I think it's going to be harder for him to produce. And the closer we get to week 12, when Deshaun Watson returns, the more value Kareem Hunt is going to have. So I would be trying to acquire Kareem Hunt and probably trade Nick Chubb, but it needs to be for a king's ransom. Indianapolis Colts at Tennessee Titans. Really excited for this one, and I think that we have some fun season-long occurrences that we might be able to start relying on. Passing game perspective, I think that Matt Ryan's a streamer this week. I wrote it up at 4 for 4, and actually this one is part of the free section because I put Michael Pittman Jr. in at the top of the list. So for my start sits at 4 for 4, you can read the section of the first player. So what you can get from that is that Michael Pittman has been used as a big time short area guy. And there's some fun stats that 4 for 4 has. You can go check out at the piece. He's one of the shortest depth of target guys in the NFL with at least 40 targets. His target total, I think he's like at 11th overall at the wide receiver position, which is awesome because he missed week 1 or missed week 2 with a quad injury. And then, per Adam Hutchinson's injury index, guys usually see a dip in production week and the following week from a quad injury. So anyway, it's just, he's succeeding despite everything that's going on. I think he's justifying the way that Rich Rebar called him a future superstar. We just need him to get his downfield game going. The Tennessee Titans cornerbacks are really, really bad. Terrence Mitchell is awful. Roger McCreary is awful. Caleb Farley has been kind of a bust. So I like Michael Pittman Jr.'s odds a lot in this one. I also like Alec Pierce. Now, there are some fun resources that are free on Twitter. You can go find Pierce in them. But he's not getting a lot of red zone looks, and that needs to change for him to find his ceiling. But he's getting a lot of work between the 20s, and he's showing that he can earn targets. He's being efficient on a yards per out run basis. So we like Alec Pierce here. And I think that Pierce, I think you could start him as a fantasy wide receiver 3 this week. I don't know if I will quite rank him there, but I think that when you get into that section where there are some strange wide receiver bets, I think you can put one on Alec Pierce that he will be a top 36 wide receiver. And I also think that given the matchup, it is possible that Alec Pierce actually can outscore Michael Pittman Jr. I would bet on Michael Pittman Jr., but given the matchup, one of these guys should have a really good game and the other guy should have a good game. Alec Pierce's chances of doing that are maybe 25. And hey, that's great. 25%. We'll take that. We'll take that from a guy we can probably just add off waivers right now. Don't worry about the other wide receivers here, both this week and moving forward. Don't worry about any of the tight ends. It's a three-way tight end. I think these Mo Alley Cox, Kylan Granson, and Kate. No, not Kate Otten. I'm totally blanking on the third guy. Anyway, I think this is probably the strongest tight end room in the NFL. They don't have an elite guy, but this is a really, really good group. You can't start any of them. Definitely start Taysom Hill over them. But be happy from a fan perspective, and if you want to place like parlays, the tight end room might be a good one because the odds will always be so dang low just because they have so many good ones. Running backs, Deion Jackson is just straight up playing better than Nyheim Hines has in the passing game, and I think it was Sam Hoppen on Twitter who was saying, "Give me Deion Jackson over Nyheim Hines for the rest of the season," and I agree. I think Deion Jackson should be on 12-team rosters. I think he needs to be on the bench. Jonathan Taylor should come back, and I expect him to rock the house in this one. Though, so it's season long. He's. I have to look at it. It'd probably be hard to rank Jonathan Taylor outside of the top 3 rest of season, but I could get there. I could probably get there. This one's going to be a fun one, though. So as far as the Titans defense goes, we talked about the secondary. The front seven is also like injury devastated, but Mike Vrabel is a good defensive head coach, and he's done a really good job scheming tough situations for opposing offenses. So kudos to you, Mike Vrabel. He's still getting a pass rush going despite Harold Landry like on injured reserve. I think he was an ACL, and Bud Dupree missing a bunch of games. I think there was another defensive lineman too. So good on those guys, but I think Jonathan Taylor kind of just bulldozed his way through the talent or lack of talent. On the Titans side of things, man, I was looking at Treylon Burks's return date, and this is just so aggravating. We don't know if Treylon Burks is good yet. He looked like he's good, but we don't know. He's only been on injured reserve for 2 weeks. Luckily, this will be week 3, so he could come back in week 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, week 9, and that's against Kansas City. Would it be crazy for him to scream off the bench or off of injured reserve against in that kind of a matchup? No. Do you want to bet on it? I don't know. He'll probably be a wide receiver 3 that week. Burks is just man. So Kyle Phillips, he suffered a hamstring injury, I think, in practice today. He's been dealing with the shoulder. I still want to bet on Kyle Phillips from Dynasty or in Dynasty. Like, it's a good profile. I think that he can do it. He showed that he could earn targets in week 1, like a MFer. I think his targets per run rate was like number 1 in the NFL. Now it was a 1 week sample and everything, but like, it's noteworthy. Robert Woods just dusty and coming off the ACL tear. That said, Colts defense, I don't want to tell you guys to start any of the Titans wide receivers because they're not very good, the ones that are active right now. Colts defense has good perimeter coverage with Stephon Gilmore. Kenny Moore, we're just in a wait and see pattern with him. He was really bad, and then Christian Kirk, wet the bed last week against him. So maybe Kenny Moore's getting his stuff figured out. I don't know. We always need to be able to change our process, but right now he's still a guy that I think we should be picking on, the slot cornerback in Indianapolis, Kenny Moore. But Robert Woods earned 8 targets against Washington. And he's playing alongside Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, an injured Kyle Phillips, and a guy named Cody Hollister. Woods is he'll go down as a really, really good NFL wide receiver, but I've got him ranked as a wide receiver 4 that this week, and I think that's how you should approach him moving forward for the rest of the year. I think Robert Woods is a fine wide receiver 4. In terms of the tight ends, Austin Hooper's done just crap all. And I think that you can absolutely start Taysom Hill on him every single week. You can just drop Austin Hooper. Derrick Henry continues to get some screen passes, and we love that. I'm happy for the guy. He continues to get the voluminous workload. He's not very efficient. 28 carries, 102 yards last week. He got 2 touchdowns, But anyway, Derrick Henry, I think he's a very fine running back one. I would not be trading for him. I've got him as a running back 6 this week. I wouldn't be trading for him because I don't think that he has longevity, and I definitely would be trying to get off of him in Dynasty. But Derrick Henry this week, good to go for RB1. As far as the backfield goes, it's really interesting that Dontrell Hilliard had such a great week 1, and then I think it was a hamstring, and then they've just been throwing the ball to Derrick Henry, and that's great. I don't get it because Dontrell Hilliard, he did exactly what they asked of him. I like this usage for Henry, and they should have been giving it to him his whole career. So it's a bit strange behind him. Dontrell Hilliard, Hassan Haskins, my guy Julius Chestnut. I've still got Chestnut taxi squatted in Dynasty. Thank you very much. As far as who to have as the primary bell cow backup, it's probably Haskins, but you never know. It's weird. It's a weird situation back there. Houston Texans at Las Vegas Raiders. So Davis Mills, he's not the guy. We've already talked that to death. What to do with these guys moving forward and this week? Nico Collins continues to earn more and more targets. And that's awesome because he's their X receiver. He's built like an X receiver. He's not going to be a big time X receiver. But I like Nico. And I think that he might actually be able to start doing things for us down the stretch. I don't think we can rank him inside the top 36 this week. Maybe the Raiders lost Nate Hobbs. Rocky Sin has been very good. Best named player in the NFL, probably alongside Rashad Wildgoose. But Nico Collins is a fine flex bye week start. Brandon Cooks, I don't like this week. He's had some issues kind of earning targets. He's a year older, as one says. His targets this year have only gone down 12, 10, 7, 7, 6. Doesn't mean he's out there for any fewer routes. And I don't have his route data in front of me. We don't have that here. But he's losing his ability to earn targets while Nico Collins is kind of going up. So, and he's also got to go up against Las Vegas. I actually wrote up Brandon Cooks at Pro Football Focus. You guys should go check that out because I kind of went into his year over year decline, and it seems pretty tangible. So I'm not excited about Brandon Cooks this week, and I think that it's appropriate to rank Nico Collins ahead of him. I don't think I have that on the NerdBall rankings right now, but I will be updating that as such later on. I know that this is one thing I wanted to touch on at the beginning. NFL scoring is down. I think that people will adjust. And Sean Siegel and Ben Gretsch did a phenomenal episode this week of Stealing Bananas podcast from Arrested Development. You should go listen to it. I think it was the first one that they did this week, and they talked about the state of the NFL and scoring, how teams are winning against it, how teams are failing. It's really, really good. Those two guys are some of the smartest people just in the sport, period. Go check that out. But anyway, Brandon Cooks, I don't like his matchup this week, and I think that if he has a spiked week, so he's got Tennessee next week, and then bad one against Philadelphia. We'll see what the Giants defense is looking like, but then Washington. If he has a spiked week, I would try to sell him as that spiked week value. Ignore the tight ends here. Dameon Pierce. Pierce is not actually getting the passing down workload that we want him to. He has trended towards it, and that's good. I think by the end of the year, he can take over. But Rex Burkhead is still being a factor. I think it was TJ Hernandez who just a little while ago this afternoon was tweeting out touches inside the opponent's 10. it was like top 8 players, and Dameon Pierce was on there. Oh, it was carries inside the opponent's 10. It was rate, not total, because totals are kind of fluky, weird. Pierce was up there. Pierce is a beast, and I told everybody to draft Dameon Pierce all summer long. He's one of my highest rostered running backs on Underdog from all of my July Oregon drafts, and I'm really happy about that. But yeah, Pierce, just be happy if you got him, and that's that. Start him this week. Oh no, we haven't covered the Raiders. So Derek Carr, I don't like Derek Carr this week, and I'll tell you why. This game is totaled with an over-under of 45.5 points. The Las Vegas Raiders are touchdown favorites at home. Okay, 7-point favorites. It's pretty big spread. That usually is conducive to a voluminous workload for the running back. Head coach Josh McDaniels turned the offense over to Josh Jacobs 2 games ago, and I think that Derek Carr will be really efficient here, and I still have Davante Adams ranked extremely highly, top 2. He only needs 9 of Derek Carr's pass attempts to do that. So Davante Adams can have an elite wide receiver one day, and that can look like 7 receptions, 110 yards, 2 touchdowns, and for Derek Carr, that is 110 yards and 2 touchdowns, and that's fine, but that isn't going to get him there to a big day. Darren Waller's out. Renfro, he's shaky. He's going to play, but he's on the injury report. He's pretty banged up. I think he has something other than the concussion that he's been dealing with too. So anyway, I don't like this for the Raiders passing game outside of Adams. Season long, you're fine. Waller, probably a little bit of panic because he hasn't been producing, and now he's got a hamstring. If you can trade him for George Kittle, I'd do it. Start him over Taysom Hill? That's tough. If he's healthy, yes, but he may be more so in that conversation than we expected. Josh Jacobs is a top 5 running back. He's my RB4. Jets, Broncos. Zach Wilson cannot be trusted this week or moving forward. Broncos defense is very good, even though they've lost some players. Patrick Surtain is outstanding. Elijah Moore is demanding a trade. The team has just straight up said it is not. We can't do that. It's untenable to trade Elijah Moore. I'm glad he's making noise. More players need to. They don't owe you anything. Players do not owe fans anything. They do not owe the team anything. They did not get to decide where they wanted to work. That choice was made for them. What he does now sets him up for the contract that he is going to sign at the end of his rookie deal. And that deal, if the front office is misusing him, if the coaching staff is misusing him, is the difference in tens of millions of dollars. So when a player is making noise because he's unhappy, justifiably, because he's not being used properly, it is our job as fans to support him, because he, in that moment, either has the ability to provide a comfortable life for he and his family for this lifetime or for generations. And that's something that we can all get behind. So I support Elijah Moore and what he's doing. Garrett Wilson, tough matchup against Bryce Callahan in the slot. Corey Davis going to get just pummeled by Pat Surtain. I do like Garrett Wilson over the course of the season, and I think he's an excellent buy low, as is Elijah Moore. They might do a Calvin Ridley thing and shut him down. I don't think so. We'll see. He's not going to play this week. But Corey Davis, get off of him. The tight ends are traps. You can't trust them. Breece Hall, he was a guy that I'm really happy for Breece Hall. We were talking about him it's forever on this podcast, and especially when the first week of data hit. Now, last week he actually, and this is free, I put this on Twitter, this is free, but this is data gleaned from, it's all cited there, so I won't go to it here. But Breece Hall, he did take a little bit of a step back in his passing snaps, but I'm not worried about that season long. He is the dynasty RB1, and I think that he is a guy that you could talk about. I think you could talk about Breece Hall with Christian McCaffrey as the overall RB1. Michael Carter must bench stash. Sometimes flex play, not this week. And you can't fear the Broncos front seven with a guy that we're talking about with Christian McCaffrey, the guy that I'm talking about with Christian McCaffrey. On the Broncos, Russell Wilson, he's got a lat strain, latissimus dorsi strain. He has a hamstring strain that apparently is pretty bad. He's a game time decision. That sucks. If he's active, he is a mid-tier quarterback too. The pass rush in New York is good. The cornerbacks are very good. Courtland Sutton can be started as a wide receiver 3 this week if Russell Wilson's active, because Russell Wilson's going to be under duress and Courtland Sutton is his guy. But if it's a backup, if it's Brett Ripien or whatever the heck the other guy is, I think that you probably need to. I think I will probably move forward with starting Wan'Dale Robinson over Courtland Sutton. Season long, I think Courtland Sutton can still succeed because receivers succeed in poor situations. We see that all over the place. But sometimes on a week-to-week basis, we do have to dial him back a little bit. Jerry Jeudy, not that guy, pal. I mean, he's a fine slot receiver. Maybe he ends up being the safety blanket for Brett Ripien. I'd have a pretty tough time. I think it's Michael Carter, the cornerback on the Jets. Also, too, you have 2 Michael Carters on the Jets. It's pretty funny. I think he's running the slot right now, and he's pretty good. So it's basically the way I look at the passing game. Moving forward, Russell Wilson, quarterback 2. Courtland Sutton, wide receiver 2 or 3, depending on Wilson's health. Jerry Jeudy, wide receiver 3. Greg Dulcich, tight end 1. Greg Dulcich is a tight end 1. And he's got a trapdoor floor, but you can drop Albert Boone him. In terms of the running backs, Mike Boone's the best. I don't know who they're going to play. They keep saying Melvin Gordon's the starter. Melvin Gordon's making noise like he should be. I will say this with Melvin Gordon's situation is he made very, very strange offseason decisions. And this is an instance where he did have the choice as to where he wanted to play. We talked about this, Pete and I battled over Javonte Williams. I believe I was right. But Melvin Gordon he got an offer. Denver said, take it or leave it. And he said, I'm going to go try out in Baltimore. He tried out there, didn't get the offer he wanted. I think he waited a week and he flew back to Denver and he took their deal. And then he got there and he immediately went to the media and he started saying they want Javonte to be the guy. Yeah, no shit, man. Spent a second round pick on him and he's amazing. And he can earn targets and he can break tackles. You are Dusty, and you are a jumbo-sized pass catching back. Anyway, I don't know what the backfield is going to do. Latavius Murray could separate, and he seemed to separate last week. But then the team said Melvin Gordon is the guy. When Mike Boone is there, going, I'm the most explosive. It's crazy. I don't think you can start any of the 3 this week. And I had someone on Twitter ask me, who do I prefer, Latavius Murray or Gus Edwards, season long? I don't want either of them season long, but I want Gus Edwards right now, and we'll get to that in a minute here. Or are the Ravens on? Are the Ravens on bye? I'll circle back to Gus if we need to. Okay, so Kansas City Chiefs at San Francisco 49ers. I'm going to call back to Ben Gretsch here. He had an excellent note about last week, how there was a 3rd down play. It was a long one. Sky Moore, he's running his route. He has the defender smoked off the line. Does not look back for the pass. Patrick Mahomes has Von Miller coming at him. And he is staring down Sky Moore, waiting for Sky to look over his shoulder. He is the guy on this 3rd and necessary. And Sky waits way too long to break to the outside and look back. The play doesn't work out. Patrick Mahomes is pissed. What does that tell us? His talent is there. He's winning in clutch situations. Mentally, he's still got some growing to do. But I find it to be promising that Patrick Mahomes was locking onto him. Patrick Mahomes sees Sky Moore. For that reason, I'm still buying into Sky Moore. I'm confirming my priors. If someone's going to be the X in this offense, it's Sky. Can't start him this week, but I would be trying to get him. Patrick Mahomes, I think he's my overall quarterback 1 this week. Interesting matchup. And he's the quarterback 1 like friggin' every week, except for Josh Allen. Interesting matchup here, though. I believe I saw that the 49ers placed Jimmy Ward. And I'll check that now while I'm talking here. I believe that they put their starting safety on, I think it was injured reserve. I'm seeing here at the practice report or injury report, but San Francisco, like Seattle, like a couple of teams, just like sometimes doesn't update their injury report. And I don't know how that's legal, but I guess the NFL doesn't monitor it. So that's, for us to all figure out. So safety Talanoa Hufanga is a DNP with a concussion. Shavarius Ward, cornerback, DNP. And that's not bad for MVS, who is bad. But Marcus Valdes-Scantling, oh man, he was a trap for so many in the offseason. So I'm looking at injured reserve, you guys. Sorry to do this live, but is Jimmy Ward on another team now? All right, maybe it was Charvarius and I got the words confused. So we're gonna say this. Travis Kelce is the tight end 1 in fantasy every week. When he's not, it's Mark Andrews, and you can basically debate that every single week. The wide receivers, Sky's the guy. Juju Smith-Schuster is a actually, Shavarius Ward might be covered in that slot. Point is, the nice thing with the Kansas City usage is that Patrick Mahomes is good enough to basically surpass any matchup. Sorry, that had me rattled there with the Ward thing. Juju Smith-Schuster is unfortunately underperforming. I think his touchdown was kind of a broken play, and that is what it is. Broken plays happen, and so that's great that he was ultimately able to capitalize on it. When it comes down to the running backs, both this week and season long, the front 7 in San Francisco is pretty darn good. But here's how the snaps are working out. Jerick McKinnon is playing a lot of snaps. He's not turning into fantasy points, and that's too bad. But I think he is still a mustache kind of guy, as is Isaiah Pacheco. Pacheco is not playing a big time voluminous workload, but he does have a high volume of touches in scoring position, and we love to see that. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, we talked about this previously. He was a sell high kind of candidate. I think you'll still be able to sell high on him. It's a great offense, and the guy just continues to get good looks. Now, what happened last week was really unfortunate because the game just didn't kind of like pop off the way that it has. Now, that is a conversation though that has to do with scoring overall in the NFL and how unders keep hitting. And just to go back and correct the record here for Kansas City, I do think that Juju Smith-Schuster can kind of cruise to a decent day this week because he's going up against Diamador Lenoir, who is the slot corner in San Francisco. Ward, he might allow for a big-time broken play from MVS or Mecole Hardman, but they're really tough guys to bank on because they're lacking in talent. But anyway, back to the running backs. The way that I have these guys ranked on the week is CEH is my RB21. Jerick McKinnon is my RB40, and Isaiah Pacheco is my running back 51. On San Francisco's side of things, Jimmy Garoppolo is a very, very fine streamer this week because the Kansas City defense has been awfully friendly to opposing passing games. And this is another one of those lovely things where it is customary for teams to include their opponent's injury report on their page, but again, San Francisco doesn't do that because of whatever reason. So here's what's going on with the defensive secondary in Kansas City. Rashad Fenton, cornerback, he is out. L'Jarius Sneed is practicing in full. So that's the slot cornerback. We don't really have to worry about Jawan Jennings anyway in San Francisco because he's not doing anything on a weekly basis. And so we can apply that to season long. Jimmy Garoppolo, I think he'll have I think he'll have a good fantasy outing here. Deebo Samuel is a borderline wide receiver 1/2. I think Ayuk is borderline wide receiver 2/3. And I think that holds for the rest of the year. What is fun with the Christian McCaffrey addition, though, is that Deebo Samuel could end up scoring more with a pure receiving workload with Christian McCaffrey kind of maybe taking his role. We won't know till we see it, but I always liked his current role, Deebo, because he's just guaranteed to get a lot of touches. But hey, sometimes or always targets are worth more than carries. And so if they do just get him like 10 targets a game, that is better. We just have to wait and see. But I would not be trying to get off of Deebo Samuel. I'd probably be trying to trade for him if people are afraid of him losing his current role. Brandon Ayuk, great player. Wish he was in a higher volume situation. George Kittle is a tight end 1, and he is really not being asked to block, and Trent Williams is back. So season long and this week, fire up George Kittle as a tight end 1. In terms of the running backs, I think you can probably still start Jeff Wilson Jr. as running back 3. McCaffrey will play, but I think it'll be pretty limited. He might get in the red zone, though, so that's too bad. I will be putting, I think, Jeff Wilson and Christian McCaffrey in roughly the same spot, and I don't have a problem with you starting Christian McCaffrey over Jeff Wilson Jr. Understand both floors are very low, so don't come at me or, whatever, I don't care. If McCaffrey plays, it's probably in scoring position. There you go. You should still bench stash Elijah Mitchell, by the way. I think this is the role that he was destined for. Seattle Seahawks at Los Angeles Chargers. DK Metcalf is a high-flying wide receiver 1 in this one because Tyler Lockett is dealing with a hamstring injury and is very iffy. I think if he plays, he's probably more of a decoy than anything else. DK Metcalf should get a big-time workload. And you should have DK Metcalf as a wide receiver 1 moving forward. Tyler Lockett is a high end wide receiver 2 moving forward. You can't trust the tight ends. I still like, shout out to you, Jax Falcone. I still like Derek Young in Dynasty. I don't like either of the tight ends here. San Francisco or Los Angeles, that is, they run a scheme that can sometimes be tight end friendly, but they got Derwin James back there, so that's not good. And there are 2 frequently used tight end 1s in Seattle, so I wouldn't, not fantasy tight end 1s like number 1 tight ends. So I would not be investing in either of those guys long term. Kenneth Walker is a running back 1 moving forward. He got a little bit of passing game usage last week, and that is cool. The Chargers are abysmal at stopping the run. They beefed up their front 7, and it did absolutely nothing. So that's awesome. Justin Herbert, elite quarterback 1. Mike Williams, I think he probably should be a wide receiver 1. I've got him as a wide receiver 2. He's so volatile, but this matchup it's good overall. Tariq Woolen is very fast, and he's been able to limit some deep play. So it's possible that they're able to do that with Mike Williams. I won't be surprised. So for that reason, I think I will just keep Mike Williams as a wide receiver 2, but understand his upside is pretty gosh dang massive. I don't think Keenan Allen plays. He's a game time decision. Josh Palmer is in the concussion protocol. So this isn't, and he's not going to play. So this is another one where you probably do want to start Mike Williams if you have him. DeAndre Swift is going to play, but the guy, or DeAndre Carter is going to play, but the guy that we are really, really excited about here at Nerding Out with Nic Bodiford is Michael Bandy, who will be this week's starting slot receiver, and the Seattle Seahawks slot coverage stinks. So you can start Michael Bandy if you are rebuilding your dynasty team like me. For real, Bandy, it's a great story. I'm really happy for the guy, and I think that he belongs in the NFL. You could start him in like a 16-team league. He has a low floor, but just preseason baller. Gerald Everett is, I think he's my tight end 3 this week because he's playing Seattle, and Seattle cannot stop tight ends. So season-long perspective here, you always start your tight end against Seattle. Gerald Everett is a tight end 1. Austin Eckler is a running back 1. Guy to stash here with Josh Kelly getting hurt. And I think he's out 4 weeks or more. Is Isaiah Spiller. Not Sony Michel. Isaiah Spiller. Sunday Night Football. Pittsburgh Steelers at Miami Dolphins. And what to expect for the rest of the season. Kenny Pickett, I think, will probably... He might actually be a top 15 quarterback moving forward. And I think you can start him like that here. Miami secondary is really bad. It's very injured. And questionable talent. But I'll root for Cater Kahu, because he was a undrafted free agent who's a starter. And that's cool. I think George Pickens and Deontay Johnson are... I think that it's... where do I have Pickett officially this week? Is quarterback 16. Okay. George Pickens, wide receiver 23. Deontay Johnson, wide receiver 25. Chase Claypool, wide receiver 45. And I don't think I have to explain why. I mean, Pickens is kind of the number 1 guy here. I think Chase Claypool should be on 12-team rosters, but you can't start him unless you have like 3 starting wide receiver slots and 2 flexes. That's when you're starting Chase Claypool in this one. Pat Freiermuth is back. You can start him as a tight end 1. He is a guy who we want to see play well. I think it's a concussion he's recovering from. We, rooting for that guy. He's a tight end 1 though. Jaylen Warren really stunk it up, and that's too bad. Ironically or unironically, his usage didn't change though. He still played on a ton of passing downs. Najee Harris just scored on a broken reception in the red zone. So if your takeaway from last week is I can drop Jaylen Warren, that's not my takeaway. The usage, the snap counts in passing situations remain steady. So I am sticking with Jaylen Warren as a bench stash. I'm just not ranking him anywhere near as highly as I did last week, foolishly. Where do I have these guys ranked? I have Najee as the RB23. And even that is maybe a little bit too generous. It's just bye weeks. It's bye weeks. Jaylen Warren, RB41. On to Miami. Tua, you can stream him as a quarterback 1. I don't know that it's appropriate to rank him there. I've got him ranked as the quarterback 15, but I think that he can finish inside the top 12. Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill. Waddle has a shoulder injury, so for that reason, he's going to play, but I think he's going to play. But for that reason, I've got Tyreek Hill inside the top 5. Pittsburgh's cornerbacks are kind of good, kind of not, very injured. So fire the cannons on Tyreek Hill. You should still start Waddle too. I just have Waddle as the wide receiver 9, so low. Yeah, both excellent plays. Mike Gesicki, I don't trust him. Taysom Hill over him. And I know that Taysom Hill played. I'm just saying from like a season-long perspective how you should think of them. I like Eric Izukama still from a dynasty perspective. Cedric Wilson was a bad underdog pick. I only picked him once. But the backfield, I think that it's still prudent to have Chase Edmonds rostered, even though Mostert is still doing his thing. I've got Mostert as a running back 25, and I have Chase Edmonds this week as the RB47. Season long, Chase Edmonds still might be the preferred play, but he's a bench stash right now. And finally, Monday Night Football, the abysmal Monday Night Football that I do not want to watch. Chicago Bears at New England Patriots. Justin Fields cannot be started in this one against the New England Patriots defense. Fields is a questionable quarterback 1 all year long. Right now for this week, I mean, Bill Belichick is just the master of disaster when it comes to messing with young quarterbacks. I've got Justin Fields as a back-end quarterback 2. Moving forward, you probably start with him ranked as a quarterback 12 and then adjust from there. This week, he craters. The injury report is relevant here, though. And of course, New England has not updated it. Here's the deal. Rookie cornerback Jack Jones is one of the best, if not like the best cornerback in the NFL right now for the Patriots. That is a problem for the Chicago passing game, and I don't want anything to do with Darnell Mooney as a result. Jonathan Jones, I'm checking on his status. Jonathan Jones is a limited practice participant with the ankle injury. I think that Jonathan Jones can play this week, and he is also a really, really good cornerback. So I think that you just need to shut down the Bears passing game on your fantasy team. I think that front seven can also really cause some problems for David Montgomery. And for that reason, I've got David Montgomery ranked as the RB20, and I kind of want to push him down further. But again, bye weeks kind of keep him there. I think that RB20, though, is probably pretty fair from a season-long perspective. Khalil Herbert, there's some talk that they'll get him more involved, but coaches like to say all sorts of stuff that make them sound good about how they're going to ride the hot hand and they'll get guys more involved. Yeah, you will, sure. Khalil Herbert is better than Dave Montgomery is, but that doesn't matter to the team. If they wanted to get the hot hand involved, then they would just be playing Khalil Herbert from the get-go. And that's from someone who was very high on Dave Montgomery when he came out. From the Patriots, doesn't matter who's starting here, Bailey Zappi or Mac Jones. You're not starting either one of those guys outside of 2 quarterback leagues, but Tyquan Thornton needs to be rostered in 12-team leagues. He is a very good wide receiver. I was high on him in the draft process, was lucky enough to draft him in rookie drafts. 6'2", 180 pounds, 4.2 speed. Dude can friggin' fly. But the cool part about this is that they are using him, and they did this in the preseason. They're using him in the short to intermediate area of the fields as well. And they schemed him up in like a lightweight Debo role last week. He was getting carries. I think he might have even scored on one of his touchdowns or scored on one of his carries. So Tyquan Thornton is going to be a fantasy wide receiver 3 like soon. Jacoby Myers is probably also a fantasy wide receiver 2. That guy's target earning ability is outstanding, and that is what makes a good NFL receiver. You could start Jacoby Myers this week, and you can start Tyquan Thornton as top 36 wide receivers. Hunter Henry, his viability comes down to Jonnu Smith, who is practicing in full, and so Hunter Henry is just I'd start Taysom Hill over him, but he's in the conversation. As far as the running backs go, Damian Harris, hamstring, now practicing in full. So I am going to have to tumble Ramondre down my rankings a little bit. He's like top 5 right now. He won't be there by kickoff. By the end of the day, he will be moved down significantly. Now, Chicago's front seven, well schemed, not that talented. You can run on them. So I'm still starting Ramondre happily, and I'm probably going to start Damian Harris as an RB3. Moving forward, Ramondre is the clear-cut guy that you want to roster, but Damian Harris is going to have value too. All right. As for Gus Edwards, because I guess Baltimore, they're not on bye. Did I cover that game? Yeah, I did. Ravens and Browns. I just didn't. I think I forgot to talk about the Ravens offense. Okay, so we'll run through that really quickly, you guys. That's hilarious. Sorry. Lamar Jackson, elite quarterback 1 this week. Probably either the number 1 or the number 2. And I think I need to tick him up because I don't think I gave him enough credit against Cleveland. You know what he is moving forward. Rashad Bateman. This is big. Rashad Bateman has been a huge part of Lamar Jackson's success. And Bateman is practicing a limited participant all week. He could play. If he does, volatile wide receiver 2. It's a decent matchup here. Devin Duvernay would be a wide receiver 4 or 5. Mark Andrews was a DNP, and now LP. He's going to play. It's a knee injury. Isaiah Likely is one of the few tight ends that you should stash in the event of a injury, and I think you can keep him on your team moving forward. Gus Edwards, I think, is the favorite to take over with J.K. Dobbins having a surgery to clear out his knee, which is really bad. And I would be trying to get off J.K. Dobbins' dynasty. And I don't want him rest of season. If you can trade J.K. Dobbins away for RB2 value, do it. The way that Gus Edwards fails is, 1, he's coming up off of an ACL. But 2, it's a crowded, if not talented room, and they might choose to let him to let it be a committee, and he probably won't have that big of a passing game role. But if I'm going to bet on any of these guys, Gus Edwards has been super efficient in this scheme, and he's the dude that I would want from a season-long perspective. But I answered this on Twitter. There are a lot of guys that I would ultimately prefer over Gus Edwards. All right, go check out my starts and sits and streaming DST at 4 for 4. Check out my 5 takeaways at the 33rd team, and check out my wide receiver, cornerback matchups column at Pro Football Focus, as well as the DFS cheat sheet at PFF. Ian's traveling this week, so we did not do the PFF injury podcast, but he did. I think he cobbled together a brief injury guide, so you can check that out there. Instead of the podcast will be back next week. Thank you all so much for listening. You can find me at Nic Bodiford, NICBODIFORD NFL, at Nic Bodiford NFL on Twitter. You can find NerdBall at NerdBallFF on Twitter and NerdBallFF.com. You can find us on Instagram. I think it's also NerdBallFF. Come at us, guys. Ask us questions, challenge us on stuff. We need the community to make us better. So anyway, I appreciate you so much. Thank you all so much for listening. Good luck this week.